All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. We always like to start on time here. Good evening, everyone. Mostly good evening for a few of us here. Perhaps it's a little bit later in the evening or certainly earlier in the day. I'm Ali Baj. I'm really excited to be here today hosting. We have a few of our virtual spine colleagues. Fellow co-hosts and panelists, Dr. Dadale, Dr. Golgano, and a few other colleagues will join us shortly. I'm honored today to have a special guest with us today, Ms. Karen Edmonson from Tima Medical Publishers. As everyone knows, we primarily focus on neurosurgical spine, orthopedic spine, neuroradiology, innovative technology, really case-based sessions for this series, but once in a while we do bring in special guests like today to talk about a topic that's important to many of us and gives us perhaps a different dimension regarding our practices, our academics, our research. So it is a pleasure to introduce Karen. She has been in the medical publishing industry for over 20 years. Most recently with Tima Medical Publishers, and everybody knows they're blue and gray, or maybe she'll correct me, maybe it's blue and teal. You know, the iconic layout of their books, a few of which I've been lucky enough to be involved with, and some of you folks as well. So without further ado, Karen, thank you very much for joining us and shedding some light on this important topic. And perhaps you'll maybe give us some pearls and ideas about what you're looking for, so we can all expand our library and expand our publishing CV. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, welcome to everyone. Greetings from New York City. I'm actually in New York City, not working from home today. And so, as I mentioned to Ali previously, if you do hear ambulances and fire trucks and cars, it's because I am in our offices in New York. Okay, so I am the content portfolio. Gotta make sure I get back to the share. Content. What will ever? Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop and then start over. Sorry about that. Here we go. Oh, technical difficulties. Right, okay, now we're in business. So can everyone see my screen? Yeah. So I'm the senior content portfolio manager here at Tima. I took over for Tim Hiscock, who I shall give credit for building an amazing publishing program in neurosurgery and spine. So I've had a lot of material to work with. He's done such a good job, and Team has done such a good job. We have more than 100 titles in our publishing program just in spine alone. Very authoritative resources that we have in print, such as Dr. Baj's handbook of spine surgery, information on the most current devices and clinical guidelines, and videos showing insertion techniques in spine. We've transitioned from a traditional ebook library. It's Med1 Neurosurgery, if some of you are familiar, where we currently have procedures, videos, cases, and ebooks. And the plan is, and Dr. Baj doesn't know this as yet, is to have updates online so that it's a living, breathing content asset, not just a static book, because there's so much information that occurs in between editions. And print editions are normally 4 years before we revise a book. And we'd like to get new information out to customers ASAP, so it's best to have it online. So we have, and these are just some of the titles. I'm showing you a screen grab from our Med1 neurosurgery site, but showing some of the spine, because I can't fit all 100 on here, but showing you some of the titles. In yellow, it shows our most current publications. So the latest publication, I believe, is the essential step-by-step techniques for minimally invasive spinal surgery by Dr. Hartle, who's based at Cornell. So traditionally, residents and learners normally would read a book cover to cover and learn by using book chapters. That's just not the appetite for learning nowadays. Increasingly so, video-based libraries are becoming very, very popular. So take, for example, the Handbook of Spine Surgery, and the future is now. At the core, traditionally in the past, it was just print, right? You didn't have access to online. And so now we have a print and an ebook version, right? Because it's portable and you can just download it to your device and it's easy to travel with. Currently, the book is on our Med1 Neurosurgery site. But the future is now. We'd like to develop a spaced repetition flashcard app, right? So that residents who have become so familiar with using Anki flashcards as med students, the familiarity with flashcard apps and adaptive learning and spaced repetition is already there by the time they're neurosurgery residents. And for quick updates, we would like to publish updates online. So for the Handbook of Spine Surgery, once it's published, in between editions, we'd like to have updates online. Although not planned for this edition of the Handbook of Spine Surgery, we found that audio has been very popular. Podcasts are one thing, but audio is actually growing. For the busy resident or the busy practitioner, they could just plug in and get an audio summary of the latest edition of Dr. Baj's book. And this would be chapter summaries, quick takeaway messages for each chapter. So that's, we're transitioning again from just that book and then expanding the spine franchise. As mentioned previously, we started off with traditional books, then ebooks, iPads, and now in medical education, it's a transition to apps. Most of the successfully digitally native medical education products combine structured content and what comes to mind, which may not apply in neurosurgery, but up to date, everyone uses up to date and it's very structured. And TEMA wants to take it a different step further in the surgical specialties in spine and neurosurgery in providing videos and multimedia assets around those concise content sets. Everyone has a different learning style. A lot of people love cases, right? Because it's just a real-time understanding of what's going on in the field. And so to remain competitive, we're transitioning again from a static Med1 neurosurgery site. Wherever possible, we will infuse and add topic-based entries so that it's easier to find, breaking it down instead of a chapter format online so that people can find procedural videos and techniques readily. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we receive a ton of proposals. I know I do. My inbox is blown up. I can't even keep up from all over the world for people wanting to publish, especially in spine. It's a huge subspecialty area of neurosurgery, very popular, and everyone has an idea. And I have to really spend time wading through 100 spine titles to make sure we don't overlap. Because ideally, Dr. Baj has the Handbook of Spine Surgery. I wouldn't want to sign up another spine surgery book to self-compete with something that we already have in-house. And it just so happens his title is a bestseller, and so we'd want to keep revising it and updating it instead of bringing on a new spine surgery book.
Karen, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
First of all, thank you for the introduction and for the plug for the book. But so you just mentioned the fact that, not surprisingly, you receive probably dozens, if not more, proposals per month for new spine books. And I can tell you that I've gotten personally some emails from colleagues, asking me like, do you think this is a good title? Can you help, get us this proposal through, et cetera, et cetera. Can you share with us, and I apologize if I'm kind of looking into ahead of your talk, but can you give our audience, because we have people here from the Middle East, from North America, from South America, from Australia, from Europe, can you give us a sense of how do you filter through those? What are the things that you're looking for that really kind of bring that potential proposal to the top, and which ones are just, they're like, it's basically the equivalent of our case reports that we submit to journals. They automatically reject them. So can you share with us some criteria that you recommend for folks to hone in on that makes it more likely that their proposal will be accepted?
Absolutely. So I start off by reviewing the content that we have in place. So if someone submits a proposal on a topic that we already have, but for example, the book might be woefully outdated, right? And we may have done something on that topic 10, 15 years ago, and it wasn't successful for whatever reason, we can't revise it. And then I would say to the author, do you have a new approach? Can we look at a new format? And then I would send it out for, it's very important that we do this, for reviews. And based on the reviewer feedback, I'll go back to the author and say, you should include X, Y, and Z in your proposal in your table of contents. And then I would pitch it to our editorial board. And based on their response, and the editorial content board comprises of our managing director, marketing, sales, and internal stakeholders, right? It's very important that the potential sales are there. So I look at hot topics. So for example, when I am attending the CNS meeting, I would sit in on sessions to see what's going on. What are the hot topics? What are that's really how I get my knowledge on what I think I should be publishing. Instinctively, I'd be looking at technology-driven proposals. Someone approached me with a artificial and AI and neurosurgery proposal recently, and still evaluating that. But I also have to be careful to make sure that, as you know, technology isn't so far ahead of practical use. So, I've made that mistake in the past where it sounds really exciting, this computer assisted navigation GPS system, and it sounds cool, but I'm not a neurosurgeon, so I don't really know if it's widely accepted or widely used by neurosurgeons, right? Is it FDA approved? I don't know. I've seen cool stuff on social media and on LinkedIn, and then I kind of wonder, I have to dig deeper, and I'm like, this sounds really cool, but if it's not FDA approved, no. So yeah, a lot of what I'm looking for now are cases, right? Complex cases. Personally, I like complex cases. I also know that 3D and 2D videos are very appealing to residents. And so I really like to have videos, if possible, regular 2D or 3D, to accompany the text. So if I'm signing content nowadays, it's really going to be like a handbook supplemented with the other multimedia assets. So videos, infographics, if it's applicable, not really, but that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you. That's very, very, very helpful. Any of our colleagues, any of the co-hosts have any follow-up questions on that? I feel like that's a very important topic, and that's something that a lot of us, and actually even me, before I got into all of this, I always wondered about, what are you guys thinking about? What, we want to do something on minimally invasive. Well, you've got like a dozen books on minimally invasive, right? How can you get yet another one in, or what angle do you have to take? Any other questions from the group here before we move on? Okay, go ahead, Nader.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, and definitely I thank Themis Publishing Company for really their major contribution in neurosurgical education and specific spine. You have like what I'm trying to think about is, we have niches within spine, and some of them, let's say upper cervical spine, craniovertebral junction. These are disorders that are rare. So how do you balance between the need of a subspecialized spinal textbook and the potential of people buying that book if the audience are is a bit limited, because we're moving towards subspecialization now we're looking at like subspecialization, and people want to write about these really niche topics, and then you're a publishing company, you need to have your customers, you want to sell the book, obviously. So what's the approach towards that? There's a topic that's in need, but the potential customers who want to buy this book are not too many. So how do you think about that?
That's a brilliant question, and it gets to the core of our shift in strategy 2 years ago that we're trying to get out of the niche areas. So ideally, if it's so niche that only maybe 150 people, sometimes I try to push and say, okay, globally, not just the US, how many people are really going to buy this? And when I present a proposal to our content portfolio board, that's exactly what the sales and marketing people will say. Well, Karen, how many people do you think are really going to buy this? And I'll say, not too many. And then they'll say, well, this belongs online. So that's why we're shifting to a topic-based publishing program online. That way we can include all the topics, even the subspecialized topics, and ultimately we can offer a print and demand option. We're still working on that. So if someone only needs 50 copies, we're fine. We're not going to have 1,000 copies sitting in the warehouse that no one's interested in. That's a really good question. And that's at the core of why some proposals are rejected. They're just too niche at the moment, but we're working on a strategy to include those topics online. Great question.
Thank you.
Karen, thanks for answering that. There's a question from Dr. Burchak online. I think I know the answer to this, but it better come from you. He said, is it possible to get an online subscription to TMS Spine books that would allow access for all of the books simultaneously for, say, 1 year or 2 years? Can you get access to all of the books online through a subscription?
Yeah, we have the MedOne neurosurgery site with all of the 100 titles. Recently, we retired, regretfully. We had a separate MedOne spine site with only the spine titles, but it's just too much work maintaining that sub specialty area. So it's still available on MedOne neurosurgery. So we do have a site that has a pretty 80% above 80 to 85% market penetration. It's heavily subscribed. And so, yeah, we do have that. If you want to, you can purchase the ebook on Amazon. But if you want the collection of the 100 spine titles, yeah, it's the MedOne site.
And is that, can you, either let me know or just tell folks how they get to that website?
Yes, I'll give you the customer sales, the institutional sales. They don't have individual sales. So you should reach out to me, because if you're a part of an institution that subscribes, you don't need to pay for it. You would just need to go to the librarian and get access.
Great. Thank you for that. Do we have time for one more question, or do you need to?
Now, sure, ask away.
All right. One, I would say, not necessarily, let's just say delicate question, but when you get proposals for texts, do the authors matter? In the sense that if it's an author or a group of authors that you know that are well published or have had success with you before, is it more likely or less likely that you'll give them approval for texts? I guess what I'm trying to say, if it's a new person or a new grad or even a trainee or somebody that doesn't have a publishing history with you, are they at a disadvantage when they submit a proposal, or not necessarily?
Okay, so the old school way, not only at Tima, but elsewhere, everyone wants a big name, right? It's like the big name gets right in. I've been around a long time, and sometimes the big names are so busy that they don't actually do the work. So I'm very careful about big names. I really look at the format, the innovative presentation of the content. I check Google Scholar, that's true. I do check to see if they've been published or contributed. But I've changed my mind from 25 years ago, right? I can look at the success of Dr. Nitin Agarwal, right? He was rejected 5 times by Tima, and now, his neurosurgery fundamentals book is quite popular. And yes, on the surface, it's like, oh my gosh, he's a resident, what? But he got a shot, and he has a massive following now. And so I am very open, as I've been approached by residents and other more junior neurosurgeons, most recently at the ANS, how could we be like, Nitin? And I would say, if you have an idea, you should still submit it. If it's innovative, it has a lot of video, has a lot of new multimedia assets, and you have a social media following, because keep in mind, some of those more junior people may have a more massive social media following and can reach a wider audience than maybe, another well-known spine person. Not you, Dr. Baj, because we can see from LinkedIn that you've got that down.
Well, okay, so 2 things. First of all, thanks for that answer. And I think thank you for giving everybody on this forum already an advantage, and make sure you remember our names. But you say that now, and I'll share this story with you and with others here, because I think it is important when it comes to publishing as new in the field. And Karen, you may or may not know the story, but say when it came to the idea of Handbook of Spine Surgery, and this was formulated, the idea was formulated when I was a PGY 5, so when I was a 5th-year resident. And the person who we spoke about earlier, who was in charge at Tima, told me, after they looked at it and they went through the board, she came back to me a few months later and said, Dr. Baj, that's a great idea. We think we love it, but with all due respect, we don't really, you're still a resident. We don't know really much about you. So why don't we involve, this and this name, and change the order of the authors so it's more recognizable, which made perfect business sense. And I didn't agree to it. And I said, we're either doing it this way or we're not doing it. And here we are with the 3rd edition. So somehow we were able to convince them, but there is a lot of business maneuvering that goes behind the scenes. Is that not accurate?
Yes, I would say that was a very smart strategy, right? I worked on a book with a well-known cosmetic surgeon, and she wasn't motivated because she's already so big. She didn't a book. She wanted to do something online, something innovative. And I teamed her up, believe it or not, and it's going to sound shocking, but with a brilliant med student here in New York, who, if you saw her resume, you would know why. Like, she didn't have to go into medicine. She's done Goldman Sachs. I mean, just brilliant, computer savvy, coded. And I paired them up together, to give her an opportunity to get her name out there, and she helped a more senior person, and then someone else at another well-known institution to collaborate. So it creates a succession plan for when the more senior author, let's take Mark Greenberg, for example, whose name is on your book. Mark and Ali will need to have a succession plan in place. It's going to get to a point where you might not want to do the book, so you bring somebody else on, and someone who you know that's a great fellow, who you worked with, and you bring them along. So I think it's a good idea to get big names on as well, to get into the door, right? So when you're submitting the proposal to whether it's Tima or any publishing company, when they see the big name with a more junior person as a part of that proposal, you're more likely to get a chance of having it pitched to the editorial boards. They're not going to want to say no to a big name. Not that we haven't done that, and I haven't felt comfortable doing it, but that's a smart way of doing things.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. That cannot be overemphasized for the folks who are listening to this here live, or for those who will hopefully look at this on YouTube later, especially for the junior folks, perhaps even as students or trainees. If you have a really good idea, just like we do with other things in academics, right? We go to senior partners, we go to mentors and ask them what they think. But it does improve your chances if you tag up with or bring along somebody who is, say, well-known in the publishing world. But of course, you're going to have to do most of the work. That's just the way it works. But their name, her name, or his name will get you through the doors. But you have to be willing to do that to get your foot in the door, just like Karen said very nicely. Okay, I'll stop talking, Karen, if you want to move forward. Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. That's the whole point of this. So those were great questions. That's exactly what I expected, to be honest. So we've evolved from books, ebooks, and now apps. People will look at the content. We have to create the content in a very concise, maybe outlined format, bulleted format, so someone can read this, read the information on their phone. We don't want videos to be too long, right? Short and sweet and to the point, step by step, showing the techniques. For specifically in spine, surgical techniques have improved, and so have intraoperative technologies, right? So again, if you're proposing a book or online only, it's helpful to include all the new technologies in that proposal, or in that in your table of contents. So for TEMA, and I won't say this is only TEMA, everyone in MedEd is probably going this way, where this is our content profile. It used to just be a book. Again, that was the old school. Now it's video, audio, images, note-taking for anyone who has to certify, recertify, having boards. You want to take notes, assessments for the residents, infographics, hyperlinks. So even with, let's say we create a topic-based, and we are, videos, video-based library, we want to link back to the foundational knowledge, right? So for the more junior people, they may require a deeper dive, even if, the text is concise, they would like to refer back to it. 3D animations, I'm in love with 3D animations. Anytime someone approaches me and says, I've got a video-based atlas, would you be interested? I'm always open, right? I think sometimes you learn so much more with videos and animations and good narration, step-by-step narration. So this is the content profile. In the future, it's now. This is what one book, if it's a bestseller, this is how we will expand the bestseller by adding these other assets, multimedia assets. So one site that I absolutely love, Ortho Bullets, right? This is a great site. I love the layout with the topics, the techniques, a Q bank, evidence, very important, cases, videos, podcasts. I love this layout. And this is where I would like to see our program at TEMA extend to, right? When we do a platform refresh, it would be something similar to this site. And I'm sure you guys are already familiar, especially, you know, the ortho spine people for sure. This is the future, and this is what, instead of what I showed you before, the ebook library tile with all the books, the ebooks, this is where we're going.
Karen, may I ask one question here? There was a question from Dr. Baisa, who is a neurosurgeon in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, probably one of the most accomplished academically and certainly clinically in that part of the world, and a regular on this series. Two questions. The first one is, does TEMA publish in other languages, or do you publish in English and then have have others officially ask you to whether they can publish or not in their native language? How does that work? And then there's a follow-up question after that.
Absolutely, we translate. And the major languages, traditional, that I know of since I've been here, a lot in short form, Chinese, Mandarin, Portuguese, Turkish. We do translate. And if TEMA doesn't have a translation partner and an author suggests one, I normally will send that communication to our translation team and say, hey, here's an author in Saudi Arabia who knows someone who can translate for us. And they would negotiate the agreement and translation in the language.
Okay. So basically you would recommend that they contact TEMA if they're interested in translating it into their language. Okay.
Yes.
And the second question, which is really an excellent one, it's been on my mind for a while. There are some excellent books, you know, for example, in this case, published by TEMA in Spine. I don't want to say they're historic and make them sound like they're 50 years old, but let's say from 15, 20, 25 years ago, some really classic books that have stopped after the first edition or maybe have had second editions. And then they're just, you know, that title has never kind of propagated. If somebody is interested in taking over that publication, should they contact you? And is there a mechanism to do that? Or are you obligated first to contact the previous editors? How does that work if somebody wants to update a certain topic that has not been updated for a while?
Okay, yes. So if a book hasn't been updated for a while, chances are it wasn't commercially successful. Not saying it's not good content, it just hasn't been commercially successful, and hence it's hasn't been revised. However, if someone approaches me and says, hey, you know, this is great content, I use this helped me pass my boards, this has really been impactful in my career, I would like to revise it. Then I would reach out to the original author and say, this person would like to revise the book. Do you still want to be on? Would you like to withdraw? I would caution, though, that it doesn't mean that our content portfolio board will accept it in print. So that's why my plan, and this is one of those cases where I'm evaluating content that's outdated, but good content, I would update it for online only publication. And I'm sure the original author well, I'm confident that the original author will say, no, I don't want to do it. And I'll ask them to legally withdraw. And then, because we own the content, so this person could revise it and update it on a rolling basis for online publication. And then we could test out the idea of print on demand and printing out 50 copies to see if, hey, maybe with this new person who's updating and revising it, bringing a whole new approach, we might have some success in print.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Karen, are you comfortable if I type in the chat box here your email, or what's the best way for folks to get
Yeah, you can, yes.
What is your email address?
So it's Karen, Karen, dot Edmonson, EDMONSON, my name, at THIEME, THIEME.com.
Okay, thank you so much. You're going to get about 200 proposals tonight.
I received after the ANS, I made a joke that someone put my name on a bathroom stall.
Oh, God.
I am getting so many proposals, I can't keep up. Anyway.
Well, what you just said really aligns with what I heard when I was updating the Handbook of Spine, which is it's really hard to get the first edition out. Yeah. But then it's even harder to get a second and almost impossible to get a third. It's just so much more work is required, not just from the authors and editors, but you're right, it's a business strategy. And I think to Dr. Baisa's question that if there's a book that you haven't seen around in a while or haven't seen a second edition, there's probably a good reason for that. So if somebody's interested in that, they have to almost take it and reformat it and propose it in a different, more modern way, I guess, is the answer to that, because it's really hard to get a second and a third edition approved.
Yes. Great. And redoing it, once in a previous life. I did a comprehensive cancer book. It didn't do well in print. The author wanted to revise it. He's a big name. And I said, nope, you may use the figures from the previous edition, but and I helped him with a whole new format, new idea. He resisted at first. And then I said, no, we don't want to go back and replicate the bad idea. We need to, and it was well received. So sometimes that really does work with a new author team, fresh eyes, new format, new presentation. Because everyone has access to the same information, is my belief. It's really how it's presented. So back to publishing. For all the folks who are journal editors, and I'm sure there's probably one or two on the line, visual abstracts are very popular. Spaced repetition flashcards for the more junior folks. Residents love flashcards. Chapter summaries and high yield takeaways. Audio, I think that's a big deal. We have to create comprehensive content, but with a concise presentation. Again, everyone's so busy now. The way folks consume content has really changed over time. Some of you I know are familiar with tweetorials, and you'd be shocked how, that's another way of communicating information. It's not easy for folks to read every journal article, attend every conference. And so if you have a prominent person on Twitter, for example, putting together a tutorial, people do pay attention, right? So textbooks still serve value. We're just more selective about what we publish, but they must exist in the background to support the concise formats and videos. So they're never going away, but we'll just have less in print and more online. So my publisher's wish list, as I go to conferences and I speak to folks, not only as a publisher, but I've got a spine too, and I'm getting older, and I don't want to talk about the imaging, but I see things changes. And so my goal personally is to solve problems for spine surgeons and their patients so that postoperatively they can return to normal function. If I'm a patient, I know I hear about minimally invasive constantly, but yes, it's minimal tissue disruption and bleeding. That's what I'd be looking for. And the patient outcome is important. And so I'd like to continue to create content that serves the need of spine surgeons that will help patients have like a better outcome and keep spine surgeons abreast of all the new technologies. So the hot topics that, I, as an acquiring editor as well, I look at are 3D video-based libraries that are comprehensive. I've discovered that a lot of residents use the Neurosurgery Atlas that's been created by Erin Cohen-Goodall. It's like, I'm impressed by it, but I'd like to create our own as well, with contributions from multiple institutions. Complex case of the week or a case of the week is something that I'm looking for to post online. I think it's a great learning tool to learn via cases, computer assisted navigation, image guided navigation in real-time 2D and 3D videos, robotics. I say robotics loosely because I haven't determined if robotics, if it's been widely adopted. It sounds interesting, but I'm not sure if a lot of people would buy a book on robotics. So maybe the topic would only appear online. And so our strategy at TEMA, and it's not only TEMA, it's most publishers, and we're more aggressive in that our goal is to shift to a 90 to 10 publication. So the 10% really would be those bestsellers that people feel that they can't do without, that they're buying it over and over and over and over again. And then the other titles we would revise online. But again, I want to mention something really important why we like online. With online publication, you can make data-driven decisions, right? So let's say it's the next edition for Dr. Baj's book and it's grown. And I say, Ollie, I don't know if we're gonna be able to bind this. This is turning into a brick. Let's look online and see the chapters that people are reading, right? The most read chapters online. And let's look at the chapters that people are not reading so much. Maybe we don't want to put them in the next edition of print, maybe just online. And that's where I'd like to go with publishing online and even in print, to really look at how people are using the content. And I think most publishers, if they're not doing that already, they'll be doing that in the future. So if someone brings a proposal to me and there's a similar topic, just a different approach, and it doesn't get a lot of usage online, because it's very hard to go out and ask people, are you reading this book? Which chapter are you using? I can just look at it online and look at the data and determine maybe people are just not interested in a topic. Maybe it's too niche. Maybe it was ahead of its time. The technology has changed. So that's where the future of publishing, I think that's where we're going. And now, although there have been some interruptions, now's the time for any questions, additional questions that you'd like to ask. I'm sure I didn't cover everything, so shoot away. Ask away.
Anybody has any follow-up questions, or that was excellent. Thank you so much, Karen.
Oh, and by the way, no research, because although everyone would like to know about it, how to regenerate lost cells in spinal cord injury, that's, again, I want to be clear, the researchy type of topics publishers kind of shy away from. That's more like journal work, so.
If I may, I'm going to have I promise, this is my final question. You mentioned in the previous slide that one of the hot topics of what you're looking for is our cases, complex cases and whatnot. So I can tell you right off the bat, my colleagues here, some of them like Dr. Dadale, Dr. Mamagani, Selby, others, put out amazing complex cases on Twitter on a weekly basis. Is there a way for them to consolidate and collaborate with you to make it more structured in a collaboration with TEMA?
I would absolutely entertain that idea. Yes. Well, I think I need to make a note, note of that.
Well, that's really what I was thinking about, guys. Let's take this offline and maybe see if we want to do something more structured with TEMA's infrastructure backing it up. Just a suggestion, because I know Nader, I show some cases, but others here on this platform show some phenomenal cases more routinely. So perhaps we can set up, I'll put everybody on an email and connect them to you, and maybe we'll have a nice complex case series by TEMA with the following faculty members.
Oh, yeah.
Ali, this is Mike, Ali. I think that's a fantastic idea. And as you know, I'm very much invested in video editing. And if I could, share some of those skills and, be part of the team for that'd be absolutely fantastic.
I'm definitely interested. Yeah. Because even as a layperson, I like to watch cases. When I first joined TEMA, totally unrelated, I was like fascinated by these cases that, what's his name, Spetzler, I found online, and I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I'm even learning. So yeah, I love it. Yep.
Perfect. Well, I think, Nader, I'm sorry, Nader, did you have something to follow up on that?
No, a fantastic discussion, excellent seminar. I mean, I really loved everything that was covered, and I echo Ali's and Michael's interest in potential collaboration with the online videos and complex cases with TEMA. Now, amongst the 100, so I know there are authors or editors. They edit a book and then they send and they come up with a outline, and then they select the authors to write those chapters. Has there been a book that was just authored by one individual that was written from A to Z amongst these books, or they're mainly edited, editors?
Very few. I'm looking at the snapshot. Anecdotally, we have a few. And
how do you compare? You prefer a single author versus an editor, like a couple of 2, 3, 4 editors, and then they invite
contributors.
Contributors better because you get, okay.
I've noticed that the single authored titles have not been as successful. And in my experience nowadays in the world of subspecialization, I don't know if one guy can cover it all,
Right.
And I think you have a broader reach. Let's say you're a US-based author, and I always encourage authors to go global. I don't like it to be American-centric. Usually content that I sign, I'll say, can you find someone in Europe? Can you find someone in the Middle East? I'd like to find other approaches. And so that's even better if it's global, someone in Asia, an expert there. So yeah, you will reach more people that way, right? So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Karen. We've taken enough, certainly, of your time. It's almost 7 o'clock over there in New York. So thank you so much for joining us. And it was extremely helpful information. I know some of us will be in touch with you after this, but That's why we all do this, so we can inspire new ideas and new initiatives. So thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. These questions were amazing and I had fun, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
All right, folks. Well, thank you, Karen. For the rest of us, we'll see you all next Thursday. I believe Dr. Tan is hosting his partner at Duke, Dr. Abdelbar, and to speak about a very hot topic, which is awake minimally invasive spine surgery. So we look forward to that next Thursday. Otherwise, I hope everybody's enjoying their summer and have a great week. And we will see everybody next Thursday. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.